I found out that she was going to be speaking at this event, and I was like, all right, well, I am going to book a ticket.
She's the wife of like the
richest
person in India.
Asians, they really are, devout Hindus, and in a variety of ways. So if she knew we existed, she would love it. Yeah. There were like a bunch of security, and I went to just one of them, and I said, I have something for her that I would love to give to her. And then a couple of days later, someone from her team actually reached out to me on WhatsApp.
That's incredible.
And I literally just put the phone down, and I caught myself reacting. And that video has now gone close to 7 million views.
That's insane.
I've created videos where I scripted the whole thing out. I've got my shots ready and this and that. It's great.
Welcome back to another episode of Chew on This. Today we have the co-founder of Modi Toys, Avani. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
I know you had a long drive up here.
I did.
But we really appreciate it. The product is a personal favorite of mine. It's in our family. It's part of my son's crib, and it's held a close moment for me. But I think you've impacted a lot of families. Before I tell your story, I'd love to get a little bit of what it took for you to build Modi Toys, why you even did this, and maybe just a little bit about yourself for our viewers.
Yeah, absolutely. So my brother and I actually co-founded Modi Toys, and our story began 8 years ago when both of us became parents in the same exact week. So he was actually out looking for a toy, something that was rooted and represented our Indian heritage, and he found nothing. And we're just really grateful for being children of immigrants and being immigrants ourselves, that our parents really raised us in an environment that was fully immersed in our language, the food, the faith, the culture, all of it. And so that when we became parents ourselves, it was really important for us to kind of pass that on. But we realized very early on, that they were growing up on pasta, watching Disney on repeat, and they only speak English. And so we realized that if we don't make an effort to preserve our culture, then who will? And so that's where the idea for Modi Toys began.
Incredible.
I love that. What is your background? I know that toys isn't your background.
No, gosh, I wish. Actually, no, I don't wish that, because I think if I knew too much, I would have been like, nope, I'm going to steer clear of that. My brother and I went into this blindly. We have no e-commerce experience, no toy experience, really completely new to all of this. So my background is in B2B marketing.
Okay.
And I...
kind of in there.
Yes and no. So when I was working in corporate America, yes, I did website, web optimization, email marketing, all sort of basics. But it was never direct to consumer marketing. It was always B2B marketing. Right. And my customers that I dealt with were compliance officers and all these decision makers making multi-million-dollar decisions. So I can't really relate. I couldn't really, translate all of that and bring those skills, transferable skills into the work I do now. But yes, I always knew the basics of marketing that I had to apply in terms of you always want to understand your customers' why. What are their pain points? When designing a website, what are some things to look out for?
Absolutely.
When, doing email marketing, what's important? So stuff like that, I was able to kind of transfer over. But, in terms of doing D2C, even just how to talk on social media, create content. And back then, TikTok didn't really exist.
What year was this?
2018 is when we officially launched, and so the world looked very different in terms of marketing then than it does now. So I've learned everything on the job.
That's wild. So you thought, okay, I want to do this. What was your first step? Did you find a manufacturer? Did you do some sketching?
So the way my brother and I, we sort of divvied up our roles is that because of his consulting background, he sort of always gravitated towards doing the back end stuff, as I call it, the operations, logistics, legal, manufacturing, all of that is his remit.
Right.
Whereas for me, because of my background, I really focus on sales, marketing, the customer, the front end side of the business. We just sort of naturally gravitated towards those roles. And it's great because I don't enjoy the work that he does, and I don't think he would be good at the work that I do. Yeah. So it's worked out. But our first step, if you go back to 2017, so we literally had this conversation, my brother, myself, and my mom. We were all in our living room together. And he comes home one day after another failed shopping trip, and he goes, "Why aren't there any plush toys, that look like our Hindu gods, but when you squeeze their belly, instead of singing the nursery rhyme, they sing mantras?" And I looked at him, as I normally do, rolled my eyes, and I'm like, "I'm sure it exists. Like, did you look online?"
Yeah.
It's so matter of factly.
Yeah.
And then so of course we all get our phones out. We're like looking on Amazon, looking on Google, looking everywhere, and we couldn't find any space. And so a week later, I went and had my first child. Yeah. And then another 6 weeks later, I went back to my corporate job. So I forgot all about this crazy idea of his, and I went on with my life. But then in about 4 months later, he presented me with the sketch, and it was like just literally drawn with a colored pencil.
Yeah.
And it actually looks, I would say, like 90% close to what you see here.
Really?
That's insane.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
so we didn't stray too far from where we started, and then again I was like, okay, cool, you're actually still thinking about this, because I forgot all about it. And then in December of that year, so our daughters were born in January, in December of that year, he presented us with an actual prototype that when you squeezed it, it played a mantra.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so that's when I was like, oh, okay. Like, I sat up a little bit, like,
Yeah.
okay, so you were legit thinking about
He
this.
couldn't sleep.
Sleep. And I mean, I couldn't sleep either, but for very different reasons.
Yeah, that's true.
But that's when, I kind of put my marketing hat on, and I said, okay, well, let me see if there's any merit to this, because, we might think it's a great idea, but what do other people actually think? So because I was naturally part of a mommies group on Facebook at the time, I asked my local, actually Hoboken mommies group, which is very active. Yeah. And, the one thing about the internet, as I always say, people love to give their opinions, right?
Yep.
Whether you ask for it or not. And so I basically took a photo of my daughter, who was 1 year old at the time, sitting on a couch holding our prototype. And I posted a very simple message saying, hey, my brother and I have been toying around with this idea, pun intended, and would love to get your thoughts on X, Y, Z. And I asked a couple of questions, A, at what age did your kids stop playing with plush toys? B, what would make this plush toy special compared to all the other plush toys you have? And I think anything else, right? And they really delivered.
Yeah.
I got so much great feedback. And
Wow.
in fact, that is where the idea for a book came from. So some of the feedback that we got was, well, if it came with a corresponding book with the toy, then we can make it a gift item. Or if it came in at a different size as well, perhaps, So I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so our customers really became sort of our focus group.
That's super tactical.
Love that.
It's amazing. I'm curious. So when it comes to creating products, especially when you look at the D2C world, it's typically supplements or beauty and skincare and just simpler products to bring to market, right? This is something where you guys pretty much created a product.
A brand new category.
Yeah, whole new category. So one, you obviously you don't have too many things to look at left and right?
Yeah.
You kind of have to figure it out on your own. Yeah. So I'm very curious, especially because you've had that marketing hat, and I know you're just personally know that you're really, really tuned into the organic side of building the brand. Tell me a little bit about when this product came to market, that initial kind of growth that you had. Talk us through that a little bit and what went in with that.
Yeah, so I don't even think I understood the term organic marketing. I just knew that I had no money to work with.
Fair.
Synonymous, right? Today.
So, and to this day, I still have no money to work with. So that's why I continue leaning so heavily into organic marketing. I'm just praying and hoping that one day they just go spiral.
Yeah.
But really, at the time, I thought that, okay, if I knew that I'm my own key customer, right? So I figured that if I found other people like me, other moms to young kids, maybe who are further along in their motherhood, or maybe they're expecting any day now.
Right.
And if I could just kind of sync up with them, in any capacity, and then maybe that will help get the word out.
Yeah.
And really my goal at the time was really just to get the word out. Like if I talked to one mom and she told another mom, great, like that's still a win in my book. I don't need you to have 100,000 followers.
Yeah.
Like I remember at the time, I mean, I'm still friends with many of the influencers who I reached out to back then. And at the time, I think they had maybe like 7,000 followers. And I remember if they ever like tagged me in their story, I was like, oh my God, they just tagged me in their story.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It was amazing. But really, one of the things I did, and I don't know if this is like a gatekeeping or not, but like I encourage everyone to do this. I intentionally reached out to some moms who live locally, again, right, because I don't have a budget, who I knew were sort of like well connected. They had many friends,
Right.
or they were not creators or influencers, but they were had a bit of a presence online.
Yeah.
And so I reached out to them and I said, hey, we just launched this product, or we're launching this product. I can't remember what phase that was in. But I know you have a daughter who's X years old. Would it be okay if I came into your home and just photographed her playing with our toy?
Yeah,
and I just
awesome.
needed photography for my website, which I did. Like none of this was a lie, right, by the way.
Right.
But there was a reason why I reached out to certain individuals.
people. Yeah, very tactful.
So and so then this way that kind of prompted them to like also be like, oh, this is so cute, like let me go
Yeah,
share
yeah.
this. And this
So
was
smart. Find the right.
But it's
key
also
models.
very ballsy, like
Yeah.
going up to somebody and say, can I take a picture of your kid with this in your home that you probably, I don't know if you knew this person or not. Yeah.
not well. Many, I mean,
That's awesome.
One of them or a couple of them I was meeting for the first time in person. A couple of them I knew just sort of online.
Yeah.
But we weren't close enough for me to really make that ask. But if you think about it, like how could you say no, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
oh my gosh, like you
No,
created this
it's-
amazing product.
yeah, it's
and
incredible.
right.
Yeah.
And to this day, I mean, I got some amazing shots. I still use a couple of those photos to this day.
That's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, because I don't do photo shoots
Yeah.
like on a regular
Right.
basis, right? So
That's
awesome.
I think it's what's really cool is like you had a really kind of stumble into how to go after organic without really even trying, right? And then I think I recently saw you've also had a more recent stumble into the organic group with the White House campaign too. I'd love for you to kind of touch on that too and how that unfolded.
oh, you mean when I was invited?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So, I mean, I think I rubbed shoulders with the right people to get on that guest list.
I love that whole story. Like you were sending that bag to her.
Oh, you mean Nita Ambani?
Nita- yeah,
Your
yeah,
team,
yeah,
Nita
yeah.
Ambani.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
yes.
was that not at the White House?
No.
Oh,
This
where
is
was-
Harvard.
Harvard.
Yeah, she
Okay,
spoke
okay,
at Harvard.
okay.
Yes,
Cool,
yes.
cool. That's right, Harvard.
So I found out that she was going to be speaking at this event in December, and I was like, all right, well, I am going to book a ticket and and see if I can maybe get in front of her.
One of
And
the most powerful ladies in
that's
Pac
wild.
Asia.
and this I think when being so naive like really helps,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
not knowing too much. Like I think
Yeah.
if I had gone in there like knowing she's gonna have like an army of like security around her and it's actually impossible to like get from
For people who don't know at home, she's the wife of like the what was it,
Mukesh
richest,
Ambani,
richest
the
person
richest
in India.
Asian, I think,
Yeah.
or in Asia, yeah. And so the reason why it's not because she's the richest, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there are many rich people in the
course.
world, right? But it's because how devout
Yeah.
Yeah.
her entire family is, and it's not just like they do it for the gram. It's not like one and done. Like it's continuously they've demonstrated
Consistent.
that they really are devout Hindus, and in a variety of ways. So I just knew that being a grandmother to 4 little kids right now, I just knew that if she if she knew we existed, she would love it.
Yeah.
So my goal simply was like to get our products in her hands and expecting truly nothing in return. I mean, of course, like at the back of my mind, I'm like manifesting a lot of
Of
stuff,
course,
right?
you have to.
Because like I don't want our story to end here. I want our story to begin here.
Right.
Yeah, so I went to the event and
Did you go from New Jersey to Boston?
I did.
Just because of that event and hoping
just
for,
for
this?
her.
That's
Really,
insane.
like, I mean, there were other great speakers, but really I was there for her session only. And I flew in that morning and I flew out the very next morning. So it was a 24-hour trip. And I, again, went into this naively, as I was saying, thinking that, okay, well, when it's right before her session or like right after her session, like I'll dash to the stage and I'll just be like, here you go. Yeah. I don't even care for a selfie. I just want her to have like my toys. And I quickly realized that the auditorium was so packed that like there was no way that I was going to be able to get to the stage in time. And in fact, it did not happen. So I'm so glad that I had the, what is the word? The forethinking to get my product in the hands of someone in her team before her session, because afterwards it was like a zoo. It was mayhem. Like half this auditorium went on stage. So it was impossible. So right before she was coming on stage, all her security, everyone's like on the stage. I sort of like had a quick Mentos moment, as I call it now. And I saw there were like a bunch of, security, and I went to just one of them and I said, hey, I flew in from New Jersey this morning just to meet Nita Ambani, and I know it's going to be possible to meet her. And he said, yep. And I'm like, okay, great, we agree. But I have something for her that I would love to give to her, and I know that she's going to absolutely love it. I know that she's got all the money in the world, but I guarantee she does not have this. And so awesome. He was like, like, hold on, like, let me get her guy. Like, I guess she had another guy. And then so the head guy comes over and he's, I give him the same exact spiel, and then he's like, let me see what you got in there. So like I pull everything out, and then I pull out the toys, and he was not Indian, so I wanted to kind of over explain, just make sure that he understood like the significance of what I was gifting her. And then I also had brought in this book called Desi Davies, in which she is an A to Z book featuring Indian women who's done amazing things, and she's letter N in there. So when he saw that, he was like, oh, okay. So so he recognized that this was something special. This was not just like something random, something like like a crazy girl fan moment. And so I had already written a letter to her too, because I knew that I wasn't going to have like 5 minutes of like one-on-one quality time with her. Sure. So I had written the letter with the intent of like, oh, at least I'll have like a few seconds to chat with her before, as I'm gifting her the gift. So my letter kind of began as like, as we had discussed. But it's okay. Boy. The important thing is that I ended the letter with my name, my number, my email. And then a couple of days later, someone from her team actually reached out to me on WhatsApp. That's
incredible.
And when I saw that WhatsApp message, I was stunned.
I can imagine.
And my heart was literally racing out of my chest. So I'm so glad. And I had this thought. And I feel like you have to start thinking like a Gen Z a little bit, because I was like, what would a Gen Z do right now? Yeah. They would put their phone in front of their face and they would just like kind of capture this candid moment reaction. And so I literally just like put the phone down and I like caught myself like reacting to this like crazy like thing that just happened. And that video has now gone close to 7 million views.
That's insane.
Oh, it's literally like a 5-second video. Like the dumbest thing.
You got the content.
But
even when I saw it, I was like, wow, that's insane.
That's amazing.
That's incredible.
So that's the thing. It's like sometimes you like, I've created videos where I like scripted the whole thing out. I'm like, got my shots ready and this and that. It's like crickets. Yeah.
Wow. That's so powerful. And now are you planning to like take that learning that you had and experience, like are you planning to like rework that in different ways now and like maybe go after other people and whatnot, or is this kind of like different? Maybe the part of this that is really cool is like it comes in moments and waves and you kind of have to just wait for the next inspiration.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't think you can really pre-plan this too much. I mean, I could have never planned like everything, all the content that I actually had planned for that week. When I ended up sharing so much about Nita Ambani, it all got pushed to the side because then like the crazy just kept getting, the story kept getting crazier and crazier, because first it was like the WhatsApp, and then like maybe the following year, the couple day after, then I got another WhatsApp. This time it was from the driver, and then like he came and gave me a gift, and I was like, what is happening? Like what
this
world?
Is like Princess Diaries.
Yes, exactly. So I was like, I can't talk about anything else right now. Like I have like a thing going on right now. So yeah, I mean, I don't think I can plan too much, but one thing that I do a lot is I do spend a great deal of my time on social media, and it's not just like doom scrolling, but it's really like I'm seeking inspiration. It's
Consuming.
like exactly. I'm like, what's grabbing my attention?
Smart.
Because if something grabbed my attention, it's obviously grabbing other people's attention too. As a matter of fact, just this past week, another plush toy brand based in the UK called Love Before, they just went viral, and I caught them like going viral, like as they just like sort of like the ice. What's the analogy I'm looking for?
The tip of the iceberg.
Tip of the iceberg. Yeah. And so they had about 30-some thousand followers.
Yeah.
They now have 105,000 followers in a matter of a week.
Wow.
And the video that went viral, it's only gone like 3.5 million views. It's not even like crazy amount.
Yeah.
But because of the story, because of what their product is, I mean, like anybody could buy their toy, right? Like, unlike my video, which went, viral with double the views, right?
Yeah.
But it's such
Niche.
a neat, and well, also I should mention that video that went viral, like it had nothing to do with my brand. Nothing,
Right.
there was no context to it, right? So I'm kind of relying on someone to like do the like extra click through of like
You need them to go through the
exactly.
funnel.
But whereas the video that went viral, it was her brand story.
Sure.
So yeah, so that's why I'm still like holding out, hoping that there is a video that's actually relevant to our brand that goes viral.
I'm sure.
But I think it can happen. I
Yeah.
mean, the craziest things do go viral. And I mean, I think you probably heard about this on TikTok where this author had just written a book and he was at Barnes and Noble.
Yeah.
And
saw
like now
that.
he's sold out. Now he's like the #1 on every like list.
So what happened?
So there was this author who had written a book, and he was at a Barnes and Noble for a book signing,
Yeah.
but like nobody went
nobody-
to his table.
Okay, I already
So-
know why this went viral.
So this woman who was just sitting there, like she just kind of like took a video sympathizing with him, and it blew up.
oh, that's
and
great.
now his books are sold out.
yeah.
No, it's I think those moments can happen at any time.
Absolutely.
Chew on This is sponsored by, if you want to build a profitable e-com brand these days, then you need retention. Lifetime value is the lifeblood of your brand, especially when CACs keep going up. Being first purchase profitable is great, but you only really start to print money when that customer comes back over and over and over again. It's why subscriptions are such a big piece of our strategy here at Obvi. There's a big reason brands, no matter the size, are using a tool like Recharge. What we like is that they're not just adding a subscribe button on your site, they're a complete subscription engine, helping you convert buyers to subscribers, preventing cancellations, winning back churn customers, and they're even driving more revenue through smart upsells. That's why big brands such as Dr. Squatch and even Vital Proteins are using Recharge. So if you're looking for a powerful, all-in-one subscription platform, head over to Get Recharged today to see how you can pump up your LTV for your brand. Now, let's get back to the episode. I'd love to shift a little bit of gears into, you came out with maybe the first 2 toys or the first one. I'm assuming it was the Ganesh.
Yes, Ganesh was our first one.
And then from there, you've obviously expanded the product line. You've had, thousands of customers. I want to understand more so when it comes to your types of products, right? You have this intermediary, which is the parent,
Yes.
right? In between the actual user of the
Yes.
product. I always find people who can market to and build a brand with an intermediary to be like so impressive. Like people who sell pet products, like I find that to be really impressive because it's very hard, right? Because you can't get UGC from pets unless the intermediary is there. You can't really get any feedback, right? And so like you kind of have to build with as much grace and as much presence as you can. So I'm curious, like what is that journey of how you've released multiple SKUs? How is your relationship with parents and then the actual child using it? How is that developed, and how do you spend time on that?
So I will say that it's really beneficial being your own target customer.
Yeah.
I'm always paying attention to what my kids are gravitating towards, right? I mean, so I have 3 kids, ages 3, 5, and 8. So obviously the type of toys and books and everything that we have is quite varied in our home. The things that appeal to my 3-year-old no longer appeal to my 8-year-old and vice versa. So I'm always looking inward,
Right.
but of course I'm not the voice of like millions of parents either. And every child is different too, even in my own home. So not only am I looking at what's happening in my own home, but I'm always like tapped into what our customers are saying, whether they're sliding into our DMs or, giving us feedback in email or as a review. So much of the feedback that we've gotten from just customer interaction has actually gone into like our product development too. So for example, like we have a Bluetooth add-on for our toys that we had never even thought of until like one day a customer told us how they sort of like jerry-rigged a way to like get the toy to play something besides the mantras that comes by default. And I was like, oh, well, we can
do that.
We can provide you a Bluetooth speaker. Why not? And so stuff like that. And then, one day I was out shopping with my daughter and and we saw a paint by, what is it called? Paint by numbers or paint by stickers or something book. It was like a sticker book and she liked it. And I was like, and then so we brought it home and then I was seeing her work on it. I was like, what would this be really great for? A rangoli.
Yeah.
And then so the first thing I always do, like I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm not just trying to be better than what's out there. Right. I want to be new. I want to be innovative. So I really looked long and hard and I couldn't find anything like this. And then so I was like, they just gave me an idea. So really, it's just always be listening.
Yeah,
and I think
that's so cool that you're just constantly getting product ideas at home.
Yeah, for free. No, but really, like a lot of it really also comes from our customers, and of course, we do get more ideas than we can actually implement. So we've heard a number of times like, oh well, what about products for Jainism and for Buddhism and Sikhism, and I just feel like we haven't really fully penetrated this is a Hindu market. I mean, there's like over 1 billion of us, right? So I just want to be able to walk before we can run.
Yep.
But I think just even within the sort of the category that we have created, there's just like so much more we can do. But our customers are very forthcoming. But one exercise that actually just recently started, and you'd be surprised that I haven't done this in 8 years of our journey, or 6.5 years. I've never actually defined who our core demographic is. And I got this feedback as I was speaking to another former CEO, and I said, well, I can kind of make assumptions, like obviously, right? Like I know it's parents, I know it's like they're in this age group. I know where our customers come from predominantly, in which states and stuff. And he said, yeah, but do you know like why they're buying from you? And I said, well, not really, until like I see photos and stuff. And so he was like, you got to talk to 100 people. And so I've now, just in the past month, started the cumbersome process of trying to talk to 100 people. And so I have 2 segments. I've made 2 lists. So one is obviously existing customers, and ideally those who have purchased from us multiple times. So not just once, but at least twice, so that we know that, okay, there's some loyalty there. And then those who have abandoned cart, because I want to see both sides. Like, one, why do you love us? And secondly, like, why don't you love us?
Right.
Why what stopped you? Exactly. And so we have sort of similar set of questions, but some obviously very key differences too. And he said that once you've talked to 50 people in both groups, then you will have a better understanding. And so I don't even think we've talked to even 10 people yet, because surprisingly, it's really hard to get people to say, okay, yes, I'll give you 15 minutes of my time. And it's even harder, as you can imagine, to talk to those who have abandoned your cart, because they're like, if I have time to buy your product, I have time to give you 15 minutes. But that's kind of something that we're doing right now, because I really want to understand what their key motivations are.
Incredible.
So as far as marketing, I know we've talked about organic stuff, but as far as paid, what are you exactly doing? And if not, maybe not anything.
Yeah, no, I am doing something, just not very well, because
Makes a lot of us.
no, you guys are doing a phenomenal job. Like
I don't think anybody's doing paid well.
Yeah. There's always ways to do it better, and no one feels good about it.
I agree. Okay, so I think where my strengths lie is in the creative. I feel like I can produce, videos and static ads and all that stuff. But where I really am struggling is getting that delivered to the right people. perhaps at the right time. I just know that Meta, Google, even TikTok, which I haven't even attempted, they have so much more capability than I have been able to tap into. And I am just such a newbie. I mean, so when I first started running ads, so I should mention that we grew organically in the first 2 to 3 years of Modi Toys. I didn't spend a single dime.
Which is incredible.
Because I didn't have a single dime. But afterwards, when I did start, you always want to be able to do the job that you want to hire, right? Or outsource. So I said, okay, I'm going to try to do this on my own. And so I ran Facebook ads by myself, Google ads by myself. And I didn't know what the heck I was doing, but with the role that I'm in, like I didn't know what I was doing, but I was like, okay, I'll figure it out. And I can't even tell you like if my ads were effective or not. I just knew that I had to like now find new avenues to market. And then eventually I outsourced it, but I always maintain control of the creative because I was like, nobody understands.
Right.
Like, I mean, it's definitely not going to be someone who doesn't look like me, right? No offense, but I've lived my story, so like I want to be able to continue telling it. So I've always maintained the creative, but like even when I outsourced the rest of it, I felt like we weren't seeing the kind of return that I expected. Like, okay, like now if I'm adding fuel to the fire, like why isn't a massive shift occurring? Right. And that's been sort of the challenging that I continue to grapple with to this day. I've now, that was back in maybe 2020 or so, but like I've changed agencies, I've changed freelancers, and still I think they all kind of become a little, I don't know if I should say this out loud, but like lazy.
Yeah.
Like
comfortable.
I mean,
comfortable,
like
yes.
It's tough for somebody to care about it as much as you'll care about it.
Yeah.
And that's the people you need to find. I mean, there's great agencies out there, but I think what's always worked for us is Ash runs our performance, and I'll do the creative and he'll run the performance, and we're the only people who will actually give a shit about this.
Yes.
Yeah.
You need someone in-house. I think that's really honestly the key, because anyone else is you're just basically one of their clients. And for them it's like, okay, let me just see if I can copy and paste this formula, and if it sticks, great. If not, whatever. Like, I'll still send my monthly dashboard update at the end of the month, and and like, I believe it or not, just this past week I sent this email to my freelancer who's currently running the ads for me on Facebook, and I said, hey, I get the sense that I'm really providing the kind of strategic guidance that I was expecting to come from you. And
it should be coming from them.
Exactly. And I was like, I don't know how to like write this nicely, but I thought that was like the nicest like way to like kind of say like, hey, like do your job. So
makes total sense.
Yeah, no, I think especially when it comes to paid, especially over the last few years since COVID and stuff, I like to put the analogy towards like the job a weatherman has, right? You can always be wrong, but you always have a job. And I feel like that's how media buyers kind of are. Like they can burn money, and it's like, I got to work with you the next day still. I still got to listen to you. I still got to do this. And it's like, it's the one piece that becomes really tricky, because nowadays, at least the brands that are being born today, they feel like they only can build through this. And then you have this other side of the world happening, which is like TikTok, where you've seen like brands literally get born and build overnight.
Yes.
Poppy. Poppy, I mean, literally led to an exit, and then since that last viral campaign. But it's incredible how some of these platforms work. Are you... One thing that's interesting, and I'm curious because we do have a lot of viewers that are in niche buckets. Have you kind of felt like you've also had to stay in your lane of like Instagram, or like how does a platform expansion work for you? Because there are people who are like, I'm already in a niche. I just need to master one thing before I start jumping into TikTok, Snapchat, and all these other things. How are you looking at like all the different distractions and where you can spend money and do media? How do you look at those platforms?
So I'm happy to spend money if I know that something is working, right? So if I knew that, I mean, everyone says like, you have to be on TikTok, and so I tried running like some such minuscule campaign, and like it did nothing. So I'm like, okay,
Did you do organic TikTok too?
Like
Okay.
So I should clarify that right now, Instagram is really where I have a community, right?
Yeah.
So like if I ever like go and look at any of the comments, I'm like, oh yeah, like I know this person.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like you start seeing some
Yeah.
familiar
Yep.
profiles pop up. And on TikTok, I couldn't tell you who user 12345 is, because like many of them
It's
don't even
true.
have like real names. Many
Yeah,
of them
yeah.
like even their profile photo like is not even of a person. So I'm like, I don't know if these are real followers
Right,
I have.
right,
I don't know who they are.
Like Instagram, you have a grid. You can tell, you know, this person's a real person.
Yeah.
TikTok, half the time, there's no posts.
Yeah. So on Instagram, that's kind of where we got our start. And so when TikTok was banned for like 2 seconds, I was like, oh, good riddance. I don't have to worry about this. But then I was like, I was just so grateful that, you know, we still had Instagram. And I was also so grateful that I had my community on email, because we have a super high open rate. And I was like, you know, if I lose TikTok, that's not a big deal because we're not big on it. But what I've been really just doing is like whatever content I create, it's always with the intent of like, okay, this is like for Instagram, because I understand, like I speak Instagram, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't speak TikTok. I don't know what would go viral on TikTok, is what I mean.
It's scary.
Yeah, it's like the less effort you put in,
Yeah.
like the more likely
Yes.
it is to go viral. Is
Yeah.
really what it comes
you
down
can't
to.
think about TikTok.
Exactly. You cannot have a script.
No.
You cannot have shot lists. You cannot have any of that.
true.
But so what I've just been doing, again, because I'm a lean team of one, whatever content I create for Instagram, I just repost it on YouTube and TikTok. That's
Yeah.
it. I don't mess with other channels because I just don't have the bandwidth. And it's always so fascinating to me to see how something can go viral on one platform but
I
not
know,
others.
not
Like
others.
I've literally had 3 different examples of where like that Nita Ambani video that went viral on Instagram, like nothing on others. But then I've had a video that went viral on YouTube, but like barely anything on the others. And like, you know, same thing.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, it's so I've just stopped trying to like understand it.
That's
I'm
right.
like, whatever. Like I'm
Yeah.
just gonna like, you know, I'm just gonna roll the dice on all 3 and like
Yeah.
see where it lands. And that's kind of what I do. But you know, I do think that with that said, you do have to kind of make sure that you have something else outside of social media, because as we've learned through
Yeah.
TikTok, right? I mean, they can pull the plug literally any
Yeah.
minute.
100%.
And then what do you do? How do you talk to your customers?
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
What
like
are you gonna do
where do you
then?
go from there? So
Yeah.
I really do think it's important to have an email list to begin with, and not just like a list, like, but actually ongoing communication with them.
Yeah.
And we switched over from MailChimp to Klaviyo at the end of 2021. But I would say that, again, I didn't really maximize, you know, its true potential until very recently.
Yeah.
Like I would say maybe last year and even, you know, this year. Because before it was always like, okay, maybe I'll send an email like once a month, like when we have a sale going on. It was just very like promotional driven. And it wasn't until I realized, because going back to organic marketing, I do this series called Theology Thursdays. Well, it used to be called Theology Thursdays, but because I no longer post weekly on Thursdays, I had to kind of change the name. But people essentially understand, like, you know, that I post this type of content where it's like a series of, it's like a carousel post where I'll dive into any given topic. Like, so like say for example, Hanuman Jayanti is coming up, which is Hanuman's birthday. And I talk about exactly what it is, why it matters, like how was Hanuman even born? Like,
Right.
you know, how,
cool.
and so it's really for, again, it was for me because, you know, I had there was a point in time when I started asking myself these questions, because my daughter was getting to an age where I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to be taken to the mandir for Hanuman Jayanti, I need to tell her like what Hanuman Jayanti is. And then she's, of course, like, you know, being like the 4-year-old, she's going to ask like, well, how was he born? Like, he's a monkey and a god. And so I wanted to make sure that I had an answer. It wasn't just like, well, don't worry about it. Like, or, you know, give her like some crazy answer that
like our parents told us.
yeah. And so I really wanted to kind of change that, you know, be a cycle breaker, I guess, if you will. And so that's when I started creating these series of posts called Theology Thursdays. And then it turns out that the things that I was interested in learning about, so were others. And in fact, those posts became some of our most engaged engaging posts, people would always like look forward to it and like save them, and that's the metric I then like started measuring for, as does Instagram now, right? Like they want to see how many shares and saves you get, and I'm really proud to say that, you know, that is. So, you know, people can come to our page and not only be entertained and like see cute baby pics, but they can also educate themselves.
Right.
And, you know, the way we present the content is always in a very simple, digestible manner, because ain't nobody got time to read a novel, right? I mean, like if you want to do that, you would go and like read the Gita, but like you want like the truncated version of it. So that's what we've always done. And so when I started doing that series, it initially began as IG stories, and it took me, I think, 2 years to finally move that to my grid. I'm like, wait, why am I not like
not
leveraging this, right? Like, because like once the 24 hours, it was gone. I mean, I had highlights, but who wants to flip through all that, right? No, so then 2 years later, I was like, wait, I'm an idiot and I'm missing out. So then I started moving them to my grid. And then again, like, I think it was like another 2 years later where I was like, wait, like, why am I not emailing as if like my entire audience lives only on Instagram? So then I started like cross posting. I put on our blog post and emailed about it. And so I just know that there's just so much like I'm probably still not doing. But this is what I mean by when I say like, I've learned on the job. Like it's not like, you know, day one I had a business plan of like all the things I need to be doing. But you know, you learn.
That's impressive. I'm really impressed with the fact that you're very aware of what you need to learn, what you don't know, and I think those make the best founders. This whole time-bound thing of I need to learn everything now, I need to know everything quick, it just doesn't, it never works that way. I'm really curious on one other thing. You know, what do the next few years look like? Because we actually just had the founder of Lalo, which is like the kids kids tables and a bunch of different products. Yeah, we do too. It's Michael's awesome founder, and one thing he mentioned, which was really cool, was they've obviously, you know, designed really cool furniture for kids, and they've gotten into households, and their whole thing has been building product based on what their community wants. And so now they're moving into like subscription stuff and, you know, getting coloring books and this and that. And so I'm curious, like, how do you look at product expansion now from the idea of like subscription is important and getting people on repeat is important, and trying to build that constant relationship where, you know, you're not just being thought about during one time or one moment, you're thought about every day and every moment. So tell me what the next 3 to 5 years look like in your vision.
If I'm being perfectly honest, we're figuring that out right now. We have not been too much of a forward-looking company. And I'm just being honest. I know that makes it sound like we don't really have our ducks in a row and stuff, but
I don't think anybody really does.
But I'll be perfectly frank. And when we first launched Baby Ganesh, my brother, again, my co-founder, he was like, well, we should now come out with Krishna and Hanuman. And I was like, who's going to want all that? Like, you know, I was like, nobody wants a whole collection of like gods. And I'm so glad I was wrong because, you know, to this day, whenever we have a brand new collection launching, there's always a wait list. There's always like people like ready to like, you know, like to hit add to cart, you know, when it goes live. But that's the thing. It's like, our customers continue to surprise me daily. And so now the question, you know, we're kind of confronted with is, okay, do we age with our customers? Meaning, like, obviously, you know, my brother and my daughters, they were 1 year old when we had the prototype. They are not exactly in like the, oh my God, I love plush toys. My other two kids, very much so, like they love plush toys still. But now, do we try to cater to the 8-year-olds who once had our toys? Or do we just focus on the newborns, the infants, the toddlers? Because there are very different products that we can create for both. Like, so this Rangoli with Stickers book is a perfect example of something that we had created for my daughter's demographic in mind. So that's something we're still figuring it out. And the reason why we're figuring it out still, as opposed to like, you know, saying like, well, this is what the next 3 or 5 years is going to look like, is because product development takes a lot of time and money. And we don't want to get it wrong again because we have gotten some products that did not work. And so we are, you know, now in the process of clearance and all of that fun stuff. And that's why we are very intentional with our product development. We launch literally one toy collection a year, and sometimes we don't get our timing right. Like the book will come out first and the toy will follow, or the toy will come out first, the book will follow. Books are typically easier to produce, so those do come out first. But because of that, for the time being, we've actually decided to pause our development for plush toys. One of the reasons is because we feel like we do have a good amount. We've got like the major
ones. It's like us in collagens right now.
It's like the major ones, right? Like kind of covered. Like it's like, okay, Shiva. After Shiva, even if we had, like, let's say the resources, right? I don't know if I would be like running to get something created because I'm like, well, we kind of like, where do we go from here? Like, do we do Ram, Sita? Like, then it's kind of.
Do you guys do like limited drops at all? Like, what if you made something and just sold out of it and never brought it back?
I mean, if there was like a surefire guarantee that
only you would know.
Yeah, exactly. Only God knows, and he ain't talking. So he sings but doesn't talk.
My son loves to. I think it's a Lakshmi one. He loves to. He knows where the battery. I think it's on the bottom here, right? Yeah. So now he's about to turn 3. So now what he does at night is he'll take it out and just keep pressing the beeper, and we have the Nanit. So we're also listening to the mantra constantly.
Kid is such a troublemaker.
Yeah, he's actually a huge troublemaker. But it's like now he just has graduated to, okay, I'm done playing with the plush toy. I just want to listen to the mantra.
That's amazing. I love that.
It's really funny.
Do you like the mantras? Like,
I do. I personally like the fact that, like, I'm not very, like, we pray every morning in our temple and stuff because we have a son, but like before my son and like between when I grew up from my parents like doing it, there was a patch where like I didn't even reference God or go temple or anything. Now I'm like, hey, I want my son to have certain qualities. So like I take him every morning to the temple right by his bedroom and say thank you for something, and like just something small, but we don't still do any of the core practices.
This is why I think they say parenting makes you a better person. Because you want to be a role model for them. And you really want to do right by them. And the reason why I asked you if you liked the mantras is because I've actually been, I have a long list of like reels that I like, ideas as I get them. And one of the ideas I had was like, finally a musical toy where I don't want to throw the batteries out. And the reason why I thought that is because my son does have a toy he is obsessed with and that I absolutely hate. And I have contemplated either throwing the toy itself out or just take the batteries up. But he's too smart to know, like, it just needs 2 batteries.
That's us with Moana 2 right now. So it's a bit much. No, it's such a good point. I think it's one of those things that's like, I think what you guys have created, the brand you've built, it creates a lot of wholesomeness, but it also creates a lot of intention of like, if I'm getting this for my family or if someone's gifting it to me, there's a part of it that makes you feel like I'm doing the right thing.
Proud,
right? And proud. And like, I think that's something that like feels good. Like when he has, he has his Build-A-Bear, but he also has his Lakshmi next to him, and it's like, all right.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be either or. That's the great thing about it, right? Really cool thing. And I think the other great thing about toys is that like you can never have enough. Because you're gonna have a set of toys when they are born. You're gonna have another set of toys when they're like 1 month old. I mean, that's how Love Every is built, right? Like they have a whole subscription-based model based on age group, and so the great thing about these toys is that they're ageless. Like they're sort of evergreen, and again, like we didn't know that we were creating toys for adults until we started hearing from adults saying like, oh no, I bought this for myself. Or no, I bought this for my nephew, but I love it so much I decided to keep it and buy another one for him. And I was so naive, again, because we went this totally blindly. And now there's this term called kidult.
Wow. I haven't heard that one.
Actually. So have you heard of this brand called Jellycat?
No.
They're a massive plush toy brand, also born out of UK. I mean, they're like they're actually a couple of decades old now. But adults are their primary customer.
Wow.
And as a matter of fact, just this past weekend, I was at a toy store with my kids, and there were some Jellycats there. And it was like the teenagers and like it was like not the little kids, it was like a teenage girl who was like, oh, this is Jellycat. And I was like, wow, like as a marketer, I'm like, that's amazing,
That's
right? Like
incredible.
that's called, and like it's not like they have massive
Yeah.
branding. Like you just look at it, like it's like
You
a jelly
just
cat.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So kidulting is a thing, and I'm really glad that we're able to kind of ride that wave of
so cool.
having people of all ages kind of turn to them for whatever the reason is.
Absolutely.
It's powerful.
I think it's refreshing having a guest who actually built a brand on pure values versus
very
technology.
the first time for us. Yeah. So first of all, you've shared tons of tactical things you've done, whether they're accidental, whether it's through learning. But this is, I think, really the essence of our show and what we're trying to share. But one thing we like to do at every episode at the end is, if there was one thing you can leave the audience with, one thing to chew on, one thing for them to take away, what would be that one piece of advice for anyone thinking of building a brand or stuck building their current one?
I would say you learn by doing, not by just strategizing. You can sit there and plan everything out down to a T, but you won't learn a single thing from that piece of paper until you actually put something into action.
Chew on that.
If you want more from us, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, follow us on TikTok, and check out the website chewonthis.io.